Alright, what's happening, y'all? It's your boy Rico from Street Scores, and man, I have a little bit of good news and then quite a bit of bad news as far as the Commanders' health going into this Falcons game. Of course, like I already talked about in my previous video, my 5 stock ups and my 5 stock downs, I included team health right now in one of the stock downs. Not looking too pretty. First of all, Chase Young is listed as questionable against the Falcons, and I think it's actually very likely that he's going to play based on the type of practices he had this week, based on what Rivera has said, what Chase Young has said. And Rivera even speaks on how much he'll play if he does actually go out there and play. Again, I'm optimistic about that. Then also, starting with the bad news, man, Cole Holcomb to IR. I mean, granted, our defense has been great even without him, but I mean, he's supposed to be our starting Mike linebacker, and the more Cole Holcomb is out, the more John Bostic is in, and now that he's gone to IR, that could get really ugly for our linebacker group. I feel like there's eventually going to be a team that purposely tries to attack that part of our team. Now, I do feel like with Cole Holcomb being out for a few weeks, somebody would have figured it out sooner. I mean, even just the Eagles themselves. But so far, Jack Del Rio has been finding a way to make Jamin Davis as the only reliable linebacker on the team, and even sometimes the only linebacker literally on the field work. I don't know how, but shouts out to him. Also, Benjamin St-Juste and Dax Milne out versus the Falcons. So who's going to step up at corner big time? Because Benjamin St-Juste is our best corner right now, straight up. I mean, the Danny Johnson interception, one of Derek Forrest's interceptions, all come from Benjamin St-Juste deflections, man. We need that, especially height-wise with Drake London coming to town. And Ron Rivera even speaks on that situation. And then, of course, with Dax Milne out, you know, maybe offensively, we don't blink when we hear that, but he's our starting punt returner. So we got to talk about the impact that he's had on this team so far and who is his potential replacement. Is it going to be Jahan Dotson that steps up as our starting punt returner, even though he's just a few weeks from coming back from a hamstring injury that kept him out the majority of the season? And are you willing to put your first round pick in permanent punt return duties, putting them in harm's way? But yeah, man, we got to talk about all of that and more. But before we do, make sure you subscribe to the channel, hit the bell next to the subscription button so you get notification immediately. And every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one, make sure you pull up every game day, including this upcoming game against the Falcons, for the live stream, the live play-by-play analysis breakdown, but yours truly for every Commanders regular season game, and I'm speaking it into existence every postseason game as well. Whether it's Sunday at 1 p.m., Monday night, Thursday night, I'm live streaming every time throughout the game. Make sure you pull up to laugh and learn with us. And without further ado, man, let's get it. All right, so first of all, practice was canceled for Thanksgiving, and not everybody does that. But Rivera said he wanted to give his players off yesterday. He said that they did more work on Tuesday than usual to compensate, so they feel like they're fully prepared for this Falcons game, and said it was basically just somewhat of a reward for the win against Houston. So shouts out to Rivera, man. Rivera does a lot of the little things right. I mean, to be able to just spend the entire day with your family, to enjoy Thanksgiving, that had to be huge for the players, man. Even Scott Turner said something about it in his press conference, like, man, it was lovely to be able to just spend a day with the family. And I know the players were excited. I remember a Cameron Curl interview after the Texans game talking about Thanksgiving, and he just seemed so excited to just be able to just spend the entire day, not have to practice and then meet up with his family later, to be able to wake up with his family, be with his family the entire day and all of that, man. That's beautiful. Shouts out to Rivera for that, man. Now, as far as Chase Young, Rivera said that they'll have a good feel about Chase Young's possible availability on Sunday. He said it was exciting to see him have such a good day Wednesday, and added he had another good day of practice today, as in Friday. Rivera said that Chase Young received more reps today in practice and generally just seems more confident about his physical status. Still to be determined on whether Chase Young plays on Sunday, but it's a lot of good news coming in. I mean, even just with his more reps that he got today in practice, Rivera said, quote, "That's a good sign," unquote. Rivera also said when Young came in for treatment Thursday morning, he wasn't as sore as he anticipated being. Said, quote, "A lot of things are adding up," unquote, from Rivera. Again, we will not know until Sunday morning, but it's sounding quite likely that Chase Young makes his season debut, man. Remember, he was activated from the reserve physically unable to perform list, the PUP list, on Monday, which allowed him to like fully participate in practices and things like that and take up a 53-man roster spot. So you would assume at that point he's going to play because he's literally taking up one of the 53-man roster spots. But there was a deadline. It was either do that or put him on IR for the remainder of the season. So we'll see. Shouts out to Zach Selby from the Commanders.com. He said the Commanders have been careful with Young's recovery up to this point. Rivera, who announced Young's activation during his Monday press conference, said that the team will work with him this week with the intent of if he's ready to play, he'll play against the Falcons. He and the trainers wanted to see Young consistently cut it loose and play with confidence in his knee. That confidence grew steadily over the 3-week period that he was designated to practice, and it increased at a quicker rate over the past 3 practices. Rivera said, quote, Chase looked good. He did. He had a good day, showed us some things that we've been looking for, and we'll continue to monitor his progress, and we'll see how he does on Friday, unquote. But like I already told you, he had a really good Friday as well and exceeded expectations today. So now I'm excited. Continuing on with Zach Selby's article, he said, should Young be active on Sunday, he is expected he'll play about 12 to 16 snaps, according to Rivera. And Falcons quarterback Marcus Mariota has been sacked 26 times this season, and their offensive line has the 3rd highest adjusted sack rate in the NFL. So even in a limited capacity, having Young in the lineup will give an even stronger advantage to the Commanders' defensive front that is playing well in the second half of the season. And the fact that we're going against a Falcons O-line that gives up a 3rd highest adjusted sack rate in the NFL, I think this is a good confidence booster and a good start for Chase Young because he's going to be limited. Even if he plays, he's not going to play much, but this is a good team for him to, kind of feel like I'm getting that groove back, or I have confidence in my knee. I can explode off of it and I can still make plays. You know what I'm saying? I don't necessarily even have to rely on my athleticism. I've been working on my hands. I've been working on my counters. I was working with Von Miller in the offseason. I can utilize some of that and kind of lean on some of that until my athleticism comes all the way back. Because even if he plays this Sunday, it's not like he's 100% himself, like athleticism wise and things like that, and being able to explode off his leg. But with this Falcons O-line not being good and being one of the worst in the NFL, honestly, if he can get himself some wins and some pass rush sets and maybe even get himself a sack, that's going to be huge for his confidence moving forward. Chase Young even talked about it. He said, quote, shoot, 16 plays? One of them could be the play of the game. You just never know. How many snaps I have when I come back, I'll be prepared, unquote. And I love that mentality, man. I absolutely love that quote from him. Super excited. Now moving on to the rest of the team, let's just go ahead and get it out the way. Out are Dax Milne and cornerback Benjamin St-Juste, man. Dax Milne again is our wide receiver punt returner, and Benjamin St-Juste is our #1 corner right now. That's tough. And then questionable, you have tight end Logan Thomas and Chase Young with his knee injury. So we'll see, man. We're gonna go down the list and break down everything. Let's go ahead and start with the linebackers. And what's notable, not from that injury report, is that Cole Holcomb, our starting Mike linebacker, will be placed on injured reserve today after missing the 5th straight game with a foot injury. The team will also activate Milo Eifler from IR, so I'm pretty sure he'll step up. I'm not sure how much he'll play, if he'll play. And David Mayo is finally off of the injury report, so he'll probably even play over John Bostic. We'll see. But Jamin Davis has been holding it down, but I'm still not very optimistic about the fact that we have John Bostic, David Mayo, and Milo Eifler out there. At this point, from what I've seen from John Bostic, you might as well just go ahead and throw Milo Eifler out there with Jamin Davis. At least we'll have some athleticism, some speed, and then we can just figure it out mentally there. And he'll grow as he plays and stuff like that. But I already know John Bostic is just a target for opposing teams. We've already seen that. Like I talked about in my stock up, stock down video. John Bostic's one pass play that he allowed to be caught against Brandon Cooks resulted in like 30-something% of the Texans passing yards. 30-something% of the Texans passing yards in that entire game against us came from one play against John Bostic. And he just looked so slow. He looked like he never had a chance. It would have been a touchdown if it weren't for the safeties. So I've already seen John Bostic is not it. How much worse can Milo Eifler be? And again, with his athleticism and things like that, he has a ceiling to him. And, maybe if you just keep throwing him out there to play and play and play, he'll get better and better. Just like I kept saying with Jamin Davis. Jamin Davis wasn't looking good last year, but you got to keep playing him. That's the only way he's going to learn the game and build his confidence, and everything's going to slow down for him. And at this point, Jamin Davis is the one calling the plays for the defense. You know how, that's what John Bostic contributed last year before he got hurt in the Falcons game? The one thing you could say positive about John Bostic was that he was really good pre-snap, and he was the one getting the defense together and calling the defensive plays and things like that and switching things around pre-snap based on what the offense is showing. Then Cole Holcomb took that over after John Bostic was gone, and since Cole Holcomb has been injured. That responsibility has fallen on Jamin Davis, and our defense has been balling out. Again, I feel like Jamin Davis isn't getting anywhere near enough credit for what he's been doing. I know fans have been praising him, but I don't think y'all understand how this defense should not be performing this well if Jamin Davis wasn't absolutely balling out. I mean, again, just the fact that he's the only linebacker on the field quite a bit. I think there were 14 snaps against the Texans where he was the only linebacker on the field, and there was like a similar amount against the Eagles. And then even beyond that, he's the linebacker calling the plays. He's literally like the Mike linebacker. He's the one looking at what the offense is doing and then saying, defense, this is what we're gonna do. Like, I don't know how else to break it down for people to truly understand how great Jamin Davis has been and how big he stepped up for us this season. But again, without Cole Holcomb, granted, he hasn't been here for 5 games straight, but you still prefer to have him, man. This defense has been balling without him, but you clearly still prefer to have him. Also, just to go to some positive news real quick, tight end Logan Thomas, again, already said he was questionable. He's dealing with a rib injury, but then he also had an illness. So I believe he didn't practice today. They let him take the day off with his illness, but I think he should be ready to go. And he's coming off of his best game for the Commanders since 2 seasons ago. Receiving yardage wise, 65 receiving yards, all 5 receptions against the Texans. We're going to need that because when the Falcons try to focus on stopping Terry, Curtis Samuel, Jahan, and that's a task in itself. And then they try to focus on stopping the run game, Antonio Gibson, Brian Robinson. Logan Thomas is just that secret weapon. It's just like, how do you stop all of that and him? So we need Logan Thomas healthy because he provides another element to the game. He can block fairly well, good enough for him to be able to stay on the field even on running plays, and then he's really good in the passing game. Also, some other good news: center Tyler Larson, defensive end James Smith-Williams, and linebacker David Mayo are all expected to be active Sunday. They were listed as questionable, and some of those guys didn't even practice at times during the week. But James Smith-Williams, who got hurt against the Texans game, should be good to go. Tyler Larson, who also got hurt in that Texans game, should be good to go. And then David Mayo, who we haven't seen in a few weeks, just like Cole Holcomb, it looks like he should be ready to go. And I'm assuming he'll probably be the second linebacker, only behind Jamin Davis on the depth chart. We'll probably barely see John Bostic, but we'll see. I'm hoping we see some Milo Eifler, because the more you play him, the better he'll get. Please. He looked really good in the preseason at times as well. Now, going back to the sad news, Benjamin St-Juste being ruled out is big time for us, man, with that ankle injury. Remember that pass deflection he had where Derek Flores got the interception against the Texans, and he was down on the ground for a while, and he had us super worried. And then next thing you know, he's on the sideline chilling, walking around, celebrating. Then in the locker room, he was like, there's nothing to worry about. Well, apparently there was something to worry about. Right now, Washington's secondary has allowed the 8th lowest average passing yards over the last 3 games in the NFL, and he's a big part of that. Brandon Cooks cooked John Bostic, cooked Kendall Fuller. You put Benjamin St-Juste on him, and it's an interception to Derek Forrest. It's just that simple. Benjamin St-Juste is the one covering Justin Jefferson and locking him up for quite a bit of that game, and should have had a pick 6 against him and everything. Benjamin St-Juste is easily our best corner. I like what Kendall Fuller's been doing. He had that great pick 6 against the Texans, but then there were some plays where you started to see the old Kendall Fuller again. Well, man, he's starting to get beat. Starting to get beat a little bit. Overall, still a good game from him, but Benjamin St-Juste is our only corner that you can potentially even try to consider lockdown. Even he has his fair share of issues, but not having him is huge, man. He was the one that was literally locking up A.J. Brown against the Eagles, bruh. Like, it's going to be tough to replace him. And then one thing really unique to him is his size. 6'3", really long arms. We don't have another corner like that. Now, Christian Holmes has been getting talked up a lot lately. Ron Rivera said that Christian Holmes has been practicing at another level recently. With Benjamin St-Juste missing Sunday's game, Holmes could be the guy that sees more reps at corner. Ron said that he was pleased with what Holmes has done on special teams and thinks he can bring that ability to defense. I don't know. We'll see, man. He wasn't looking too great in the preseason, but then again, he wasn't looking as bad as Danny Johnson, and Danny Johnson has looked fairly decent so far this season. The little times that he's played, he had that interception against the Vikings, but again, that was off of a Benjamin St-Juste deflection. So we'll see how this goes, man. I'm definitely afraid, and you got to think about Drake London. When you think about losing the size from not having Benjamin St-Juste, our biggest corner, by at least 2 inches, and then his arms are even longer than they should be, even for a 6'3" guy, it's really unfair. Built in a lab type of guy for the cornerback position. With Drake London coming to town at 6'5", that's scary. Ron Rivera even talked about it. First of all, he acknowledged the fact that, quote, they took a nice long look at him in the draft, unquote. So they really wanted Drake London. All those rumors we kept hearing, they clearly wanted him. But you got to think about the fact that no St. Juice eliminates the big cornerback option against 6'5" Drake London. And Ron Rivera even addressed that. And it's going to be up to Danny Johnson, Rashad Wild Goose, and or Christian Holmes to step up, man. One of those guys got to step up big time, because Kendall Fuller cannot do it by himself at all. Now, granted, they don't have Kyle Pitts, so that makes it a little bit easier for us to focus on who we need to focus on, Drake London and Cordero Patterson. But still, first of all, Kyle Pitts hasn't even had a great season. They have barely utilized him. I mean, I guess they just been using them, doing the Scott Turner special, just like with Terry McLaurin, like he used to do, using Kyle Pitts as a distraction rather than actually throwing him the ball. But now with Kyle Pitts gone, at the very least, that's less of a distraction, so we can really hone in on finding a way to stop Drake London. We'll figure it out, man. I'm confident in Jack Del Rio, the way he's been adjusting to everything this season. Again, just the fact that we have one linebacker on the field a lot of the time, because we just literally don't have enough quality linebackers out there on this team to be out there that much. And Jack Del Rio's found a way around that, so maybe he'll be able to find a way around this Benjamin St. Juice situation. Another thing we need to find our way around is not having our starting punt returner and backup wide receiver Dax Milne, who's dealing with a foot injury right now. He's the team's primary punt returner, of course, so we're gonna have to find another one to replace him. He has the 12th highest punt return average in the league with 7.77. I'm surprised to hear that. And has the 6th most total punt return yards with 233. I'm also very surprised to hear that. Now, my favorite trait for him is the fact that he doesn't muff punts. Now, I would still love an explosive guy, but these past couple of weeks, since we beat the Eagles and the Texans, he's definitely looked like a better returner. He still looks like he's running in slow motion, but for some reason it just looked like other guys are running in slow motion, even slower than him at times. I don't know what's going on. I don't know if there's some, like, the gravity is off around him. I don't know, but he's running slow, and for some reason the past couple of weeks, other guys that normally look fast look slower around him. Maybe it's an optical illusion. Maybe I'm tripping, but at the end of the day, the big reason that Dax Milne, even with his lack of explosion, has been getting the go at punt returner is because he doesn't muff punts. I mean, the Packers game, you can argue we win that game because of a muff punt. You can argue we definitely won that Bears game because we couldn't get anything going offensively because of the muff punt that they had. And we literally scored 7 points off the Bears one and 3 off the Packers one. Who knows what happens without those muff punts? We probably don't even win those games. And we're not even in this hot streak and, you know, playoff push and things like that. Just imagine if you add 2 more losses to our team right now, even after beating the Eagles and the Texans. It's just not pretty. So that's why Dax Milne is such a cornerstone piece of this team right now. Again, I would love to get a more explosive option, but after the way that the Bears and the Packers literally threw their games away off of muff punts, Dax Milne's stock definitely rose. But as far as replacements, I mean, technically Jahan Dotson is second on the depth chart at punt returner. Dotson had 23 returns in college for 338 yards and a touchdown, which came in 2020. Dotson averaged 13.5 yards per punt return over his 4 seasons in college, which again, Dax Milne has the 12th highest punt return average in the NFL and is only about half of that. So Jahan Dotson has a lot of punt return potential to him. But are you willing to throw your first round pick out there in harm's way that often, especially after he's only played a couple of games since returning from his hamstring injury? And he hasn't even been getting a lot of targets like that. So I'm not sure if it's just because he's not fully healthy all the way yet, or if that's just because that's how the offense has worked out. We have so many mouths to feed that Jahan Dotson is not getting targeted as much as he used to. And remember, Jahan Dotson was Carson Wentz's favorite target. During the offseason, it was Jahan Dotson and Cole Turner. With Taylor Heineke, it's Terry McLaurin and Logan Thomas, as long as he's not overthrowing them. Now, Ron Rivera said that they have a few choices in replacing Dax Milne at punt return. Alex Erickson was returning some punts today in practice. They also have Jahan Dotson and Danny Johnson, of course. Don't forget Danny Johnson, or technically kind of slot corner, backup slot corner, whatever you want to call him. He can return as well. He has actually been our starting punt returner and kick returner at times while we were the Redskins and the Washington football team. The thing with Alex Erickson, though, and remember, he was like our primary punt returner for a lot of this past offseason, he's on the practice squad. So if you elevate him, you're gonna have to kick somebody down, and I just don't see who on this roster they'd be able to kick down at this point with all of the injuries that we already have on offensive line and Benjamin St. Juice and just linebacker everywhere. It's just gonna be really hard to demote somebody from the active 53-man roster to make space for Alex Erickson. So I don't know how that's gonna go. We're more than likely just gonna go Jahan Dotson and Danny Johnson right now. Don't forget about Jared Patterson, but I believe he's on the practice squad as well. But yeah, man, that's the end of this video. Please get in the comment section. Let me know how you feel about everything discussed in this video. The optimism behind Chase Young being able to not only play, but potentially ball out against that bad pass protecting Falcons O-line? And also, how do you think we're going to make up for all of the injuries that we currently have? Now, granted, the only real new one are Benjamin St-Juste and Jahan Dotson. We've already been without Cole Holcomb for a while now, but how do you feel about Cole Holcomb officially going to IR and things like that? So definitely let me know that in the comment section. And of course, man, please leave a like on this video if you liked it, if you learned anything. Also, man, I appreciate all of my supporters. Shouts out to all of my sponsors, especially my Pro Bowl sponsors, whose name you see scrolling on the screen right now. I'm going to catch y'all later. I'm out.